after I went through every emotion and I all of that went away, I would hit this point where it was just the deepest focus I've ever had in my life.
At Fierce Planet Adventures and Five Mountain Coaching, we coach and train the 5 domains of cutting-edge human development. And our guest today works in the physical, mental, and emotional domains. He's designed programs to deepen neurophysiological performance. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry, we're going to break it down for you. This is powerful stuff.
Welcome to the most exciting adventure of your life. Welcome to a new way of living. And welcome to the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast. Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Andy.
We're on a mission to inspire and guide 1 million people to live a life of purpose, passion, and self-mastery through the 5 mountains of cutting-edge development.
Our guest today, Prime Hall, is a Marine Raider veteran, co-founder of Deep End Fitness, the Underwater Torpedo League, Free Your Mind, and he's also the co-author of F.R.E.E. Your MInd Guidebook. Welcome, Prime.
Thanks for having me on, and awesome mission that you guys have with this podcast.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. A big part of our mission is gratitude. So it's been kind of a tradition to kind of open with that question. What are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my living here in Carlsbad, California, and the amazing weather that we have in Southern California. And I'm grateful for my purpose and my role as a coach and as the co-founder of these 3 companies, and all of the amazing individuals that I get to work with and coach and mentor, on a daily basis.
Right on. Love it. Carlsbad, we've been there at least a couple times now. Beautiful area. We actually camped on the beach there about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
For our listeners who aren't familiar with Marine Raiders, can you explain what that means? What's your role within the Marine Corps?
Yeah. So great question. A lot of people haven't heard of Marine Raiders. Marine Raiders is simply Marine Special Operations Unit. So it's the Special Operations component of the Marine Corps that falls underneath U.S. Special Operations Command. So the difference is that a lot of the other Special Operations units have been around for several decades, whereas Marine Raiders, we had Marine Special Operations and Marine Raiders in World War II. That's when they started. But then after World War II, when they came back from the war, they shut it down, and all of those amazing individuals went to regular Marine units and they disbanded the unit. Fast forward to 2007, they did a test pilot under Donald Rumsfeld to see if Marines could start a modern day special operations unit. It was a successful test pilot, and now we started Marine Raiders. So my partner Don Schran and I got into Marine Raider assessment selection. That's where we actually met in 2009. And so that was, right at the forefront, or maybe the second wave of modern day Marine special operations. So I often tell people, well, because everybody knows what a Navy SEAL is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I say, well, it's a poor man's Navy SEAL, right? We do more with less, because we have less. We don't have all the funding yet, right? We've only been around a little while, so we're scrappy. We're like the redheaded stepchild, that's still earning their spot.
Yeah, that's the continuing story of the Marine Corps, always doing more with less.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So can you give us some background on what was it like growing up? Were you a pretty active kid? What led you to the Marine Corps? This episode of Fierce Planet Adventures podcast is brought to you by 5 Mountain Coaching, licensed unbeatable mind coaching, integrated accelerated vertical growth across 5 domains of cutting-edge development, designed by retired Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine. Learn the Big 4 skills of mental toughness and resiliency. Discover the 6 pillars of performance. Test your mettle with custom-created crucibles across all 5 domains. Visit 5mountaincoaching.com to schedule your free 1-hour unbeatable mind coaching session. That's the number 5, mountaincoaching.com. Begin your journey to becoming unbeatable today.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, whenever I was little, like 2, 3 years old, I had a grandmother that would take me to the pool all the time. She was a synchronized swimmer. And so I've been a water enthusiast since I was a little kid, doing different stuff at a pool, not technical swimming never was on any swim team or did anything technical until I went to the water survival course in the Marine Corps. But I spent a lot of time growing up, down in South Texas. I was on Padre Island and then South Padre Island, in the ocean a lot. And then I was in the pools a lot. Fast forward kind of Cliff Notes version. I had some interesting, obstacles when I was young, as far as, I had a peeping Tom. I don't know if you're familiar with that, kind of like a stalker, that affected me for maybe 4 or 5 years when I was 8 to 12 or 13, and kind of followed me around, in vicinity of my house and that kind of stuff. And so that made me, it created a lot of stress for me, obviously, as a young kid, but it made me super resilient as a person. And so I ended up living in my closet for several years and like doing these different things and like, creating these techniques and these things that I would use to survive in that environment with this guy. Right. And so my parents divorced. How I got in the Marine Corps was my parents divorced when I was like 13. And it was coincidentally enough, a couple months after this guy had gotten caught. Right. So he had just gotten caught, and then next thing they divorced. And so then I ended up living, because my mom moved out of town. My dad still lived in town, but I lived by myself. So I was kind of independent, or somewhat independent, mostly independent at a very young age. I did that for a few years. And then when I was 15, my grandparents came into town and saw my living situation, offered to send me to military boarding school. And so I ended up getting a tour at the Marine Military Academy down in Harlingen, Texas, which I think at that time was like 20 grand a year to go there, so I was going from, kind of a like a scarcity environment into like it, with no security and no rules, into full security, full rules. So I was like, I'm in, whatever I need to do. So I volunteered to go. And that was a game-changing experience for me. I had my drill instructor was a Marine drill instructor from Vietnam, and had a lot of respect for him, and he mentored me a lot. And so did a lot of the other, Marines that were there, as well as professors and whatever else, or teachers. So after that experience, I came back home after high school, and I went to college briefly, but I wasn't the timing for me. So I quickly just, phased out, wasn't interested in going to class. And so that was in 2002, 2003. So, the Iraq war was kicked off. And so, at a certain point, I started to get in trouble. I was looking for a purpose. And then, my grandfather brought me in and was like, hey, remember how you did at military school? What if we went and talked to the Marine recruiter? And so, we went down, and then the rest is history. I got into the Marine Corps. I had some court cases to clear up before I could get in. And as some Marines do. So did that. And then I came right in, and I came in as an infantryman. My first 4 years. Well, does that answer your question about how I got in?
It does indeed. Well, thank you for sharing. That's a pretty interesting and powerful story, I think. So thank you. Just out of curiosity, the path to Marine Raiders, is it usually through infantry? And is there like a ranking qualification? Did you have to be like an E5 before you can?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's changed, and I don't know exactly what it is right now, but when they first started, they were really wanting recon guys to come over into Raiders. because they're, they have a lot of the training already. They come and they're high level operators, themselves.
Right.
So it's almost plug and play. But then at a certain point, they realize, well, okay, if we just pigeonhole and just do recon guys, or we just do like combat arms guys, recon and infantry, we're not getting a full diverse team of individuals. So when we offer it to, like some of the best operators that I saw in Raiders, for example, were guys that came from, they were airfield mechanics on the airplanes.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
And they're like jack of all trades. They're problem solvers. They know how to fix anything. They're the best guy to have on the mission with you because they can do anything, right?
They MacGyver it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's just one example, but to what they started to do, probably around 2008 or 2009 is let anyone in from any MOS. So even a cook or silent drill team, can try out. And we've seen really, I almost every MOS is came in and thrived, because it's not, it's the individuals that are at the top that have been training that are mentally and physically, emotionally ready from these different MOSs that come in, and then they go through selection and ITC, and then now it's a really diverse training environment, and an elite training environment, more elite training environment than if it was just going to be infantry guys or recon guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for some perspective for our listeners, unlike other branches of the military, the Marine Corps, everybody is a rifleman first, and then their MOS second. So if you're a cook, you're also a rifleman first. So you step up and fill the breach if necessary.
Oh my gosh! And just a quick story on that. When I was in Afghanistan in 2012, we had a combat cook from the Marine Corps that was with us, and we lived in an enemy village in Helmand Valley for 7 months, just in the middle of the village, getting hammered every day. And this guy would drive this beat up Humvee. We had 2 sites that were in the green zone, so it's right in the middle of where all the most attacks are happening. And this guy would drive over the thing, drive meals. He would cook meals for everybody from both sites, and he would drive the Humvee for after breakfast, after lunch, and dinner to the other site to give them all of their food, right? And he would get attacked most of the time, especially during the day, whenever he would go over the canal. And sometimes the Humvee was in such bad shape that he would have to go up, and then he'd come back down, and then he'd have to go up again, and then he'd get over, right?
Oh,
and he's getting attacked the whole time, right? He's getting shot, he's getting machine guns. Sometimes there's an RPG that comes by, rocket propelled grenade. And so, and I asked this guy, I was like, God, man, what do you tell yourself when you're getting in there to drive the food over there? And he was like, hey man, like, this is my job. I'm a combat cook. This is what I do. I'm meant to be here to get the food over there. And so if whatever I have to do to get there, that's what I'm going to do.
Hoorah. Yeah. Nice. That's a great story.
It's my job.
Just get it done.
And the funny story about that guy was that I was on a ship deployment. My first one was to Okinawa. Then we were on ship and we were going around to like all these different countries to train.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in so much trouble on that first deployment that they were putting me in, the mess duty in the kitchen to clean dishes and stuff. And so I would always be like kind of like dodging that, and I would show up, at the last minute, and they like, where were you? And I was like, I was trying to get down, but I couldn't make it, whatever. And the guy that was in charge of me was the same guy that I'm talking about. So when I got to this crazy like bunker in Afghanistan and I see the same guy, I'm like, oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah. Well, the Marine Corps is a really small community, right? In perspective of other armed forces, it's a small group. So it's not uncommon to run into people that you maybe went to boot camp with, 3 years down the road in a completely different country. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. If you've been listening to our podcast or following us on socials,
it's probably no surprise to you that I've been dealing with back issues for many years. And I want to take a moment just to tell you about something that I found that's helped me with my flexibility and durability and mobility. And that's called Kokoro yoga, somatic warrior training. It's not just yoga. It also includes Tai Chi, Qigong, visualization, meditation, and breathwork practices such as Fit Warrior, Fighting Warrior, which incorporates functional fitness and some martial arts movements. And it's been just a really great way for me to maintain some flexibility and durability as I move through our challenges when we go and do Spartan races and climb mountains. So if this sounds like it's something that could help you out, check it out. The link's in the show notes.
You are currently working on several projects. They're all focused somewhat on the advancement of brain health and neurophysiological performance. Could you go into a little bit, what is neurophysiological performance?
Yeah, so neurophysiological performance and what we're working on is we're really, you could simplify it and just say human performance. And so for what we're doing, there's physical performance benefits. So getting into this, doing the underwater training specifically, right? We take UFC fighters, for example, we bring them in, we identify what their baseline is, and then we can start to literally create an adaptation with their CO2 tolerance, their lactate thresholds, and some of their physical capabilities that relate to performance, right? Mm-hmm. So then they can go longer in periods of high demand training without maxing out or having those chemicals fire, right? We can also build VO2 max. We can build our breathing capabilities. We can build our ability to hold our breath, all these different things. But then while we're doing that, there's other mental cognitive performance benefits as well. So for resiliency and cognitive resiliency and adaptive capacity are two huge parts of it. So when we go underwater, for example, we're all mammals, we breathe oxygen, we breathe air. So as soon as we go under, we have a mammalian dive reflex that goes off. It's a survival mechanism that goes off. That's an immediate psychological switch that tells us that we're in a survival situation and that we need air, right?
Yeah.
So depending on, where our level of training is at and how much air we took in before we went under and all these other things, there's a lot of growth that can be happened in that environment, right? Yeah. So for me, I am, like I said, I was a water enthusiast. I'm a human performance enthusiast, for a while now. So in 2006, 2007, I started doing mental focus training, and I had this coach down in San Diego, and I would come and do these like 6-hour long workouts, and they would all finish. It would be all kind of like a mental puzzle that, I don't get to know until I'm actually doing it. Right. And then at the end of it, it'll always end with this thing where just holding out a 7-pound stick for like 90 minutes or something, right? And I'm thinking like, this is when I was an infantry guide at Camp Pendleton. So I got an hour drive that I've already driven. I've been going all day. Now it's like late at night. I'm doing this thing. I don't know when it's going to be over. I still have an hour drive. I still have to get my stuff ready for tomorrow. I'm an impatient person, all these different things I start freaking out, and I yell, like, I want to hit my trainer with the stick because he's doing little things to act like this is going to go forever. Right.
Yep.
And then at a certain point I would reach this like crazy hyper-focused thing. After I went through every emotion and I all of that went away, I would hit this point where it was just the deepest focus I've ever had in my life. And he would say, "Hey, you're done," after 90 minutes or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I would be like, "No."
Nice. So that's awesome. So when that happens, you're going through these range of emotions, your monkey mind's going, is it just that you've bled out emotionally all those what's going on in your head, or did some breathing techniques kick in, or both?
For what?
So when you're sitting there and you're holding the stick out and you're getting frustrated, your monkey mind's going, you're thinking of driving back. Is it just that you had to get all those emotions out, or did you start kicking into some breathing techniques?
Yeah, so that it was basically like, I wasn't trained at that point. So I was just going through it in survival mode. And what would happen is I would go through every emotion, and then all of a sudden I would hit a kind of like a surrender point. And then after that, I would be instead of focusing in on all my anxieties and when am I going to be done and me and me and me and me, I would focus out.
Right.
And it would be a completely different thing. And so, I kind of threw in some of the stuff in there, but that's how I got started in this work with the mental focus work and all of the human performance and neurophysiological. And I do work with some scientists now and some PhDs and from different fields and stuff like that. But I am not a PhD. I'm not a scientist. But I'm kind of like a street scientist, right? I do experiments on people all the time for years and years and years and years. From when I first started being a water survival instructor in the Marine Corps, I ran a pool on Camp Pendleton with my partner, Don, right? At Camp Horno. And so we're having thousands of Marines come through, and we're learning what works to get them through to pass their swim qualifications. But also we have to get them to jump off the 30-foot high tower a lot of the time. Some of them are scared of heights. So we're figuring out and doing these experiments, what works for me to get this guy off that's completely like not going to go, right? How do I get that guy off safely? And so those are little reps, right? You get those little reps, and then you get thousands of those reps. And then, now it's like, since we started Underwater Torpedo League and Deep in Fitness, every different athlete that comes from any sport, when they come at first, it's like the first time that I went skydiving, right? When we're underwater. So the first time I jumped out at 10,000 feet, I'm like, and it seems like it went by in 1 second, right? But it was really 2 minutes. That's what it feels like for these guys. So there's a lot going on, and their brain's trying to process it. And it's like, approach versus avoid and all these different things, and cognitive control and mammalian dive reflex. And they don't understand how that works and all these other things. And then I'm throwing a torpedo at them while they're doing their breath hold. Right. And it could be the top Olympian in their sport. It could be a UFC champion. It could be whatever. If it's their first time, no matter who, I see it where like they just can't process what's happening, right? So the torpedo's coming at them, and they're freaking out. They try to grab for it, they can't get it. It's like, and then it hits their body, and then and I mean, I've done it with so that, and then like, fast forward a couple weeks later, you can do the same thing, and you'll see the same person, and they'll catch it coming in their peripheral, and they'll just snatch it.
Nice.
Like nothing. And then, but we've seen these individuals that have came, and one like powerful stories, like, when they started working, they were, working boxes in the back of their factory. And then they went to being the interim CEO of the whole company, right?
Right.
Doing major deals and all types of crazy stuff. And then that wasn't enough for them. So they quit that and went into the Army Special Forces and is in the Q course training.
Wow.
But what I'm saying is that like this training really turns you into a Jedi. It builds water confidence, but also it's a certain level. And that's what the white paper is that's a big reason of why we started, is because we've just had so many aha moments of like look at how that person does that now compared to how they did it when they first got here, and how does that translate into every aspect of their life, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Nice. So deep end fitness training, that's kind of what you were starting to talk about, correct?
Friends, if what we're discussing today, the 5 domains of cutting edge human development, sounds interesting to you and you want to experience it for yourself, a great place to start is the Unbeatable Challenge. You can try it for free now. There's a link in the show notes, and it's a great way to really jumpstart your 5 domain training and become really clear on your goals for this year and how to crush them. We did this challenge earlier this year, and it was a great way to find clarity and redefine our mission, our purpose. And Casey and I also used it as an alignment piece in our marriage to make sure that we were on the same page. So the link is in the show notes. You can try it for free now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Take action.
Where do we go from there then? I get the sense that this is similar to maybe like fear inoculation or drown proofing to some degree. Is that accurate?
Some of it, yes.
Yeah. Can you expand on that for me?
Yeah. So for fear inoculation is important for and approaching our fears and facing, leaning in, approach versus avoid is very important for us to strengthen our coping skills, right? Because stressors are going to always be coming at us in our life. And one, we always want to be intentional on how we frame things. So we always frame, once we have an obstacle or a challenge in front of us, we always frame it as an opportunity, not a threat, right? That's part of it. But the second part of it is, putting ourselves outside of our comfort zone in an area that we can be in a growth mindset and have a lot of gains. That's part of it too.
Great. Yeah. Pretty powerful stuff there, right? One of the adages that I like to use with my coaching clients is, lean into where the friction is. If you're avoiding doing something, or if you're afraid of doing something, that's where the magic and the growth really happens. So, don't shy away from that. Take that on head on.
100%.
There's so much going on in that deep end fitness training, from the hypoxia resistance training to kind of more or less keeping your mind busy by focusing on the torpedo rather than that urge to take that breath.
Right.
Is that what you think makes this so powerful? Just the combination of all these tools together?
Yes. So I think that it's like a triangle, right? But we have all these things that feed into each other. So we have the military aspect of it, and we bring a lot of safety and operational risk management to this from the military, and systematic building a block approach to training. But we designed the program to be what was missing from the military training, right? So we also have that, but then we have all of these. When we started at the end of 2017 and 2018, in the summer, we did a 6-week NFL offseason program. And then from there, we started training all these Olympians, UFC fighters, pro surfers, soccer, all these different athletes from all these different things. And then that basically now more people, because people come to us a lot of time for 2 reasons. It's because of our special operations background or because we train these other professional athletes or these athletes. And that's what so we have Underwater Torpedo League, right? And we just got a deal with Wasserman Sports Agency to get UTL on major sports networks and extreme sports networks as a spectator sport. So we're super pumped about that. UTL is headed to the Olympics in 2024. And we have
that's awesome.
couple pathways to do that. But we still have work to do on our end. We got to establish on 2 more continents before we put in our application, but we're on it. The second one is Deep in Fitness. So we have, that's the feeder program into UTL. And that's the screener, that's the training, that's all the things related to the performance training of Deep in Fitness. That's physical training too. The third one is Free Your Mind. So we haven't talked a lot about that, but they're all completely integrated and connected through FREE. So FREE is the operating system and our methodology and our performance system for UTL, Deep in Fitness, and Free Your Mind. And it stands for, with the same line of thought of being what was missing, the methodology stands for FREE. So focus, mental focus. How can we close out tabs and declutter our mind so that we could be singularly focused on the task at hand, right? In an outward, open, focused manner. I'm not focused in, analytical, thinking mind, I'm focused out. Relaxation. So managing my energy and not my time. How do I source my energy? Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Where am I getting my energy? Where am I giving it away? All these different things, right? What's creating drag? What's creating flow for me and my energy expenditure? Economy of motion. So we started out, and obviously this is all geared towards the water. Now I'm kind of giving it to you more as an individual or just a high performing executive mixed in, because that's how it's evolved. But for economy of motion, any extra movement or bad movement creates drag, and it holds us back from our highest potential, right? So how can we trim fat or trim out extra movement that we have to have more energy and time to spend on our strategic goals and relationships, right?
Yeah.
And our purpose. And the last one is efficient breathing. So just diaphragmatic, simple breathing techniques to use in different situations to have immediate top-down control. And so in the military, if you're familiar with the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. For us, and through the work with the research and the white paper, we've been connecting ourselves to different devices and doing engaging free. For example, like a turnkey system. So for example, I'm out on a run and I'm just doing nasal breathing, and all of a sudden I start to get into my analytical, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels like I'm dying. My left foot, it still has stress fractures. I suck at running. I was always at the end on all my military running. All this different stuff starts to come in my mind, and then all of a sudden I realize my focus is on something that isn't serving me. And so I shift my focus out. I focus on the path I'm in, my neighborhood. I live in an amazing, the nicest neighborhood I've ever had. I live in Carlsbad, all these different things. I'm not in Afghanistan. I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not here. I got a nice lady that's running towards me. I'm going to focus on her, wave, hi, all these things that are going to serve me, right? I relax. I check my energy expenditure. I notice, or I take into account that last night I slept for 7 hours, and I know that I've done this at a high level running on with limited sleep, right? So I know that checks. I check economy of motion, and I identify my drag source and I eliminate it, right? So flow versus drag, we want to be aware of what's causing drag for us and eliminate it. Sometimes it's not physical. It's not always just our form or our technique or how we're moving. It's mental drag, right? Or emotional drag. I got to forgive this guy, and let this thing go because it's just sucking all my energy, right? And that happens too. So, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So we have this really cool flow now where we have kind of like a top-down approach. We have different professional sports teams that have reached out to us to license Deep in Fitness, but also we have organizations that are at the top of the corporate world that we're partnering with to do free on a high level. So we just did our first mastermind type course. It was a 5-week course. Because if you can imagine, we've been training all these different individuals. We've ran these programs, with the pool programs and the UTL programs and doing programming to get, better fit to play the game and for all these different activities for surfers, for MMA fighters, for this. And so I was like, man, I want to create one that's like just a performance program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so 6 months before COVID, I did a pilot program with these different, I went through San Diego Sports Innovators program, incubator. And so I had some people from that network and some executives from Sony North America and some other people that I ran a pilot course on. And it was really powerful. The testimonials and the feedback that we got from that was insane. So then COVID hit, bam. We had all this momentum and, today's show, it just came out the week before COVID hit, spend a day with us, all this different stuff is happening and then shut down.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, well, we have all this, like my desk is stacked with all this stuff that we've been doing. So what if we just take this and like work on this and clean it up and put it into a guidebook or something, or a program manual like we have for all of our other training certifications.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. And then I started to coach people over the last year, and my partner did as well with the For Your Mind coaching. And so doing executive coaching, where crawl, walk, run, fly, where the first part of it is in an assessment phase.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sculpting our goals, what we're focused on. We're doing an assessment on our energy expenditure. We're doing, economy of motion, identifying initial drag sources or key drag sources or obstacles we need to set or boundaries we need to set, and then efficient breathing. And then we'd go from that into crawl, walk, run, fly. And at the end, they're like crushing it. They exceeded all their goals, sales goals, relationship goals with their board members, all these ended up firing this guy, but hired this guy, gave this other guy a chance. Now it's working out, all those different things, right?
Nice. That's great. Now the guidebook, that can be used for a standalone, or is that in conjunction with, or both?
Both. Is standalone. So the guidebook is completely standalone, and we built this course it's completely standalone as well. So it's all off of Kajabi.
Okay.
For your mind course.
Awesome. And where can folks find that?
So if you look up FYMcoaching.com, the course is right there on the website under Kajabi.
Awesome. So I wanted to kind of circle back a little bit to the underwater training, and I had the opportunity to look at some of the information that you sent over before we talked, and I thought it was really neat. Right, so you've got these people taking the course, and they're picking up these big, 45-pound dumbbells, so 90 pounds, and then jumping in the deep end of the pool. And my first thought is, wow. What do you do with that? And it struck me that it's really tough to walk underwater carrying two 45-pound dumbbells. So is it really like a physical, or is it mental, or is it both?
It's mostly mental, but it is a little bit physical. And to answer your question, it might not be tough to get down there and walk the dumbbells. And what I mean by that is, when as part of our screening process, we get everyone in and they're doing a 10-minute water tread, and we go over the principles of water survival, which are safe. And we add a B at the beginning, be safe. So buddy system in effect, slow and easy movements, apply natural buoyancy. We do a buoyancy test. So that's what I'm saying. If you're negatively buoyant and you sink like a rock, like me, literally I could take a full breath of air and put my hands down, and I'm going to sink right to the bottom, and I could grab the dumbbells, and I have a full breath of air. I'm still at 100%. Maybe I'm at 99. I grab them, and now I'm leaning forward, and I'm walking, I'm letting the dumbbells walk me kind of. I'm leaning forward and just letting it boom. And that's, I mean, but if I was positive and I'm floating and I have to go, or I have to, you know, swim like this, you've seen the people
Right.
that 10 times to get to the bottom, right? Then that's going to exert a lot of energy and be tough. But
Gosh. Okay. I want to circle back to though the Torpedo League, because can you kind of paint us a picture of what that is? I just it's kind of like a cross between water polo and wrestling and or full contact.
Yeah. So if you were to imagine water polo, right, and you have the big nets on the surface and the deep end of the pool, if you were to do Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and you shrink those nets down to miniature hockey nets and you put them down at the bottom of the pool. So now they're at the bottom of the pool at 13 feet. And then you have 5-on-5 in the pool with substitutes, and you have a torpedo, a 10-inch torpedo that's down in the middle, and you give a countdown, and that's how the game starts. And so they race for it at the middle, and then it's on from there. But then after that, whatever team scores, they throw it off. So then it's a throw off after that, unless it's a penalty where it's in the middle.
Nice. Is this something that anybody can kind of do, like a pickup game, or are there leagues?
So this is definitely something you want to train for, and that's why we have individuals screen and do deep in fitness and you know, make sure that they can swim at a certain level and that they have all these capabilities and understand how to clear their ears and how to handle pressure going underwater and all these different things, right? That you can do and have brilliance in the basics, or at least have a trust in the basics that you can move into this. So to answer your question, we have, you know, that's our process, is to train people to play the sport, even from a non-swimmer to train them to be able to play. And so it's doable. It's just, you got to have a process, right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
But a couple more points on the sport. It's all underwater. So if you want to come up for air, you cannot be in possession of the torpedo. You have to let go of it, pass it off, throw it, whatever, and then you come up. If not, it's a penalty drop for the other team. There's no punching or aggressive foul play of any kind, and there's in-water safeties and refs on each side of the pool that monitor the whole thing. And they have fins, so they're like right there watching the whole thing, and they have a buzzer that they can signal for a foul, and everybody comes to the surface. They also signal if it's a score, and then everybody comes to the surface as well. So it's 360 degrees, which means attackers can come down from any angle, even top down, which is very rare. It might be the only sport that does that, right? And it's fun. The torpedo, you can pass a torpedo and it goes so fast, like 15 feet in 2 seconds across the pool. So it makes the game extremely dynamic and moves fast. So it's cool.
I would
Is there a
imagine
women's league?
Yeah, you got women too. And so I don't know if you guys have seen any of the spectator aspect of it, but we've been developing a proof of concept with a couple sports networks for UTL over the last year and a half with our championships. So that's how we got the thing with Wasserman Sports Agency. So
nice. So one of the links you sent me was to, I think, ESPN2 or ESPN coverage
Ocho.
of Ocho. Yeah. Is that available for anybody to go see? Is that where can people find that link to watch the event?
Yeah. So that link that I sent you, it's like for the fans, right?
Yeah.
FTF or something like that. That's it.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that, and then, over the next few months is when we're going to be shopping out to all the networks. So, I mean, if you guys look, like cornhole is on ESPN and these things, right? So
Right.
I don't really think it's that hard of a sell, to be honest with you. I really don't. It's not like we're like, oh, yeah. So
No, I agree.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I want to play. I was watching all
kind
these
of like-
games, getting excited about it.
no, for sure. And we have like we have a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of out there, like even UFC and how they, and the case studies and kind of like, the lessons learned from them and this and that, we can kind of like take some of that that's relative to us and then like WSL World Surf League, they're kind of like a big brother to us. They have live events and media and, we do too. And so we have, good relation with the CEO of the World Surf League and some of the other individuals that are run programming and whatnot. So we have different and we have crazy advisors and mentors and stuff that back us up. And I'm reading this book, this 80-20 sales book.
Mhm.
And 80-20 principle. And I was just thinking about it. I'm like, man, the Marines are like my 20, right? Because like
Yeah.
there's always Marines that I feel like it's like a Marine mafia, especially since I got out, because it never stops. I mean, Marines come in and like save the day, with different
Nice.
stuff all the time,
Oh, that's great. I think you may have touched on an answer to this next question, but I wanted to circle back to it and maybe ask it a little bit more directly. So, we teach diaphragmatic breathing, and we know that it activates our parasympathetic nervous system. So how does holding your breath affect the body differently in your experience?
So that's great. There's physical and then mental aspects of it, right? And the physical is all of it promotes cognitive control, resiliency, and adaptive capacity, right? And having the ability to shift in the moment. So all of that is good. It also builds our ability to endure, which is coping, high level coping approach versus avoid. But simply like whenever I hold my breath, or the individuals that I train with, whenever we're practicing breath holding, usually what happens is we're breaking the pattern, right? Because we're breathing automatically our whole life. So now we're going in and we're completely breaking the pattern and we're shutting it off. And you don't know what you've got till it's gone, right? So once it's gone, now you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have breathed in like this before I did this 3-minute breath hold. Or when I recover, I'm only going to have 30 seconds. So I'm going to go right into this, right? And that pressure is going to unlock a new flow state or an innovation for me to unlock my next level of breathing capability and performance, right? So I've got fighters that they get a minute off each round in between their fights. They get a minute on the stool or standing, and then they're right back in the next round. So for us, we don't give them a minute. They get 30 seconds, usually at the max, and a lot of what they're doing in between their 5-minute rounds is underwater with us. So whenever they come up and after not breathing for a lot of 5 minutes, and then now they have 30 seconds, they're going to figure out ways that they've never done before, and it doesn't, and like, forget what you look like, forget what anybody thinks about you. Do it like your life depends on it, right? And so that's it, putting, you take it away and then you unlock new processes and performance. You put yourself in that zone.
Yeah, what a great way to break down barriers. This is truly integrated training we're talking about here. This is great.
Self-actualization.
Yeah, getting out of your thinking mind and
Exactly.
just letting your body take over.
Yep. It's not just the torpedo. To answer, like, one of the questions earlier was like, putting the focus on the torpedo. That was a big aha moment that kind of got us to like develop this. But then, as we get into it, it's really putting your focus on anything else besides yourself, right?
Yeah.
We all have anxieties and nerds and like resistance, drag towards all kinds of things. And so when we enter a scenario, sometimes all of those come out, and then you have to release that, and then you can go in, right? And so one way that I found and that we utilize, that works, is putting our focus and our energy on something intentional. Like I am focusing on you two, like I'm looking through a scope on a rifle, right? Like I'm choosing to focus on you, and that's working for me, right? And that can be for anything, but it's like shallow versus deep, right? That's kind of the problem set. So we can all have, especially with smartphones and all these notifications going off at all times, and all the weird, propaganda, news media, and weird stuff that comes in, and blah, 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 to have a million tabs open that aren't serving me, right? And then now I have a shallow depth of focus. I'm half an inch deep into a million things, right? And so or you can be deep into one or two or three things, right? Deep. And the same thing is with breathing. You could have the chest breathing, which actually enhances your fight or flight, or the shallow, like kind of chain smoker breathing.
Right.
Or you can have deep diaphragmatic performance breathing, from the bottom of your stomach, like a baby breathes. Just like within that second one, I've already I'm locked in. So, one of our champion fighters, it's a female. She does this before every fight. She's confident, before she gets into her fight, she's confident, her training camp went well, blah, blah, blah. As soon as they call her name and it's time for her to go out, she gets nerves. And every time it hits. And so the way she does it, because it's like her mind starts to play tricks on her, the way she does it to take control is she goes right into upper regulation breathing, like we do at the pool. So before each pool session, we always do 20 seconds in through the nose, out through the mouth, like so. And so she does that before her fight, and then she's focused and locked in, and then she goes out. But basically, we can do that, with anything that we're doing. It doesn't have to be a fight, right?
Yeah, you don't have to wait for a super stressful life endangering situation. You can apply that to just getting your work done.
Yep.
Focus.
100%.
Is there anything we missed about the free Your Mind program or Deep in Fitness that you want to share?
For Your Mind, we just did the first beta course. We had about 30 individuals that participated, and from neuroscientists, doctors, Olympic athletes that are in Tokyo right now, MMA fighters, and then some people within our team and our professional network as well, and had tremendous results. So we're taking the feedback that we had from that first one and rolling into our next course, which is August 4th. Michael Osterling's going to be doing that one as well. So
nice.
Thanks to him for connecting us. And really, I think that's pretty much it. And that's all on the website, fymcoaching.com. Check us out on UTL, mainly on Instagram, or on our website, utlnation.com. Or if you're interested in Deep in Fitness, we have online programs, but we also have licensees popping up, similar to CrossFit affiliate model, popping up around the country under Deep in Fitness. So, check us out. And then, you can put my information down if anybody wants to get a hold of me or my partner, Don Tran. We're always open to, speaking, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put links in the show notes. And really quickly, also, there's a really cool video that Outside Magazine did regarding Deep End Fitness and surfing. So it's I think I've shared that already on our Twitter page, but we'll put that in the show notes as well, because
Yeah,
I think that's
definitely
really
worth
cool.
definitely
Yeah.
worth
Awesome.
watching. It's
Thank
well
you.
done.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Prime. I appreciate you. And
Thank
let
you
us know
both.
how we can continue to support you.
100% same here.
Friends, if you found the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. It helps others find our podcast.
If you screenshot your review and tag us on Instagram, we'll send you a classic Fierce Planet Adventures sticker. For your water bottle, cooler, car, send us a direct message with your mailing address on Instagram, and we'll send you that sticker right out.
Thanks for joining us and live fiercely.